In a rare instance of accountability, a ZANU PF councillor from Bulawayo has found himself behind bars for illegally seizing and occupying a private farm. Josiah Mutanje, who represents Ward 1 in Bulawayo, has spent nearly a month in prison after repeatedly defying court orders to vacate Imbasu farm in Umgaza district, Matabeleland North. The case highlights the ongoing issue of illegal land invasions in Zimbabwe, often perpetrated by politically connected individuals who act with impunity. However, this time, the justice system has pushed back, at least for now, the illegal occupation and legal battle. Since July 2022, Mutanje has illegally occupied Imbasu farm, which belongs to Zephaniah Matawaza. Despite multiple court rulings against him and several eviction attempts, Mutanje refused to leave the property or pay rent. His defiance culminated in a civil warrant of arrest for contempt of court, leading to his imprisonment last month. The case, registered under CG 554/22, saw Matawaza secure an eviction order and a demand for repayment of arrears as far back as November 2022. Yet, Mutanje continued to occupy the farm, relying on his political connections to shield him from consequences. It was only when the courts issued a civil imprisonment order that he finally faced real accountability. The settlement, a last-minute deal to avoid prison. Faced with the prospect of remaining behind bars, Mutanje has now approached Matawaza to negotiate his release. A draft deed of settlement filed in court reveals that Mutanje has applied for an extension of time to pay and a suspension of the civil imprisonment order. Under the proposed agreement, Mutanje must pay Matawaza $1,000 upon signing the deed. He must clear the full judgment debt, including legal costs and execution fees, by December 2025. Payments are to be made through Matawaza's lawyers, Ndlovu Meluli and Partners. If Mutanje breaches the agreement, Matawaza can enforce the court orders without opposition after giving 7 days' notice. This settlement underscores the power dynamics at play. Even when the law rules against them, those with political influence often negotiate their way out of trouble. The bigger picture, land invasions and political impunity. Mutanje's case is not isolated. For decades, Zimbabwe has struggled with illegal land invasions, often orchestrated by powerful politicians or their allies. These acts are typically justified under the guise of redressing historical inequalities, but in reality, they are often about personal enrichment and consolidating political power. What makes this case significant is that Mutanje was actually held accountable, at least temporarily. In a system where impunity is the norm, his imprisonment sends a faint but important signal that the rule of law can still prevail. However, the fact that he is negotiating his way out also shows how easily justice can be compromised. Why this matters to ordinary Zimbabwean. Land remains a deeply emotional and contentious issue in Zimbabwe. For many, it represents identity, heritage, and economic survival. When politically connected individuals illegally seize land, they not only violate the rights of owners like Matawaza, but also undermine the very principles of justice and fairness. Moreover, such actions deter investment and economic growth. Why would anyone invest in agriculture or property if their assets can be taken arbitrarily? The culture of impunity perpetuated by figures like Mutanje harms not just individual victims, but the entire nation. The role of the courts, a glimmer of hope. The court's willingness to jail Mutanje, even temporarily, is a positive sign. It suggests that the judiciary can still act independently in certain cases. However, the real test will be whether the settlement is enforced rigorously. If Mutanje fails to meet his obligations, will the courts hold him accountable again? Or will political pressure ensure that he escapes consequences? Zimbabwe Uncensored, keeping power in check. We are committed to exposing abuses of power and highlighting cases where justice is served or denied. The story of Imbesu Farm is a microcosm of larger issues in Zimbabwe: corruption, impunity, and the struggle for the rule of law. Subscribe to stay updated on this case and others like it. Share this story to raise awareness about land rights and justice. Comment your thoughts. Should Mutanja face further consequences, or is the settlement enough? The fight for a just Zimbabwe continues. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay uncensored.